All right, well, I'm going to be a stickler for trying to get this moving because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I'm glad y'all came. We are very fortunate tonight to have both John Metz and Billy Delgado. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with names. But they're going to help us out a little bit with understanding about our hurricanes, what we can do to prep for them, bad weather, all those types of things. And so I'm going to just turn it over to them. So go ahead, John.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, folks. I don't ever like to say the H word on the island. No, it's kind of a scary subject to think about, a hurricane impacting the island out here. There's so many people live on the island. It's a beautiful place to be. I'm here every weekend enjoying the beach. I never want to see anything like this happen in real life, but inevitably it will. And we have to be ready. We have to know what to expect, and we have to know how to prepare for such a storm. So I'm going to try and walk you through the process, just a little introduction on the hurricane, the hazards and impacts we might feel, and then how to protect and prepare your properties for such a storm. And then Billy Delgado, the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Corpus Christi, and Christina will share with us the city's perspective on a hurricane emergency. So anyway, when you look at history, you can see that we've had quite a few storms. This is hurricane country. We had 63 storms that hit the state of Texas since we've been keeping record, going back 150 years. How many of those were major hurricanes? About a third. 22 were the big ones. Category 3s and 4s. We've never had a Category 5 hit Texas. Carla in 1961. Anybody here for that? That was close. That was very close to Category 5. But in the last 47 years, we've been on vacation from hurricanes, from big ones at least. So there's been a tremendous gap in time here, a lack of storms on the Middle Texas coast. How long is this going to last? So 2 major hurricanes passed to our south. 3 major hurricanes went in along the upper Texas coast, but nothing on the mid-Texas coast. When do hurricanes like to hit? Well, the big ones typically strike in the peak of the season, August and September. In fact, we've had 10 major hurricanes in both months. But notice June, we've seen 2 major hurricanes hit Texas in June right away. So
I'm going to have to use that because it's hard to hear in the back corner.
All right,
There's
is
an
that
AC unit.
A study by the National Hurricane Center went back to see how often should hurricanes hit this area. Based on past history, we see that about every 30 to 40 years you should have a major hurricane on the mid-Texas coast. Folks, it's been 47 and counting. So if I haven't already scared you into thinking that, hey, we need to get serious and prepare for a storm, these statistics might do it. But there's one more I'll share with you. It's been 9 years since the last hurricane has hit Texas. Anybody know what that one was? Hurricane Ike, right? What's the longest period we've ever gone in Texas without a storm? 10. So, and that only happened once. So it underscores the importance of being ready. So the season has begun. It's 5 grueling months till Thanksgiving. Typically for Texas, after about the first week of October, when the first front moves through, the season wraps up for us. Most of them then are steered east of this area. What is this storm we're talking about? A hurricane is a low pressure storm. Winds spiraling counterclockwise around that calm eye in the center. They have a lot of hazards: wind, rain, tornadoes, and flooding. A hurricane, by definition, has to have sustained winds of 74 miles an hour or greater. They can reach speeds in excess of 155 miles an hour in a Category 5. And these storms can get huge, can be hundreds of miles across. But every storm is different. So if you've been through one in the past, the next one will not be the same. It's not the eye of the storm we worry about. It's what surrounds the eye, the donut region, the eye wall, where the wind speeds are the strongest and the storm surge builds up the greatest, especially in the right front quadrant. The last time a storm like this crossed our shores was Celia in 1970. The eye wall went right over Port Aransas, went right up basically the Corpus Christi ship channel. And on this side, the winds are blowing out to sea. And so it pushed the water out of Corpus Christi Bay, and the boats in the marina downtown were on dry ground for a period of time. But it's this part of the storm we don't want to go through. So anytime a big hurricane passes just south of our city, that puts us in a worst case scenario. So we never want to see that happen. It happened in 1919 though. That's the biggest storm to ever hit this area. The 1919 storm passed just south of Corpus Christi, went into Baffin Bay, and it pushed a 16 to 20 foot surge into our city, devastating the downtown area. So where do the fatalities come from in these storms? It's not the wind, it's the water. 80% of deaths are from drowning, 50% by storm surge, another 20 to 30% from heavy rain and flooding over inland areas. 10% of fatalities are due to the wind. So out of the 4 footprints that a hurricane brings, again, the deadliest is storm surge. So what is surge? Storm surge is that rising tide on the leading edge of the storm. The stronger the winds, the bigger the hurricane, the longer it's been out to sea, the more shallow your coastline, the bigger the storm surge gets. In a very small storm, the surge doesn't get very large. That storm surge can vary in heights from 5 feet in a smaller storm to 10, 15, 20, like Hurricane Ike and like the 1919 storm, but Katrina had a 28.5 foot surge. Once the storm makes landfall, it's a function of your elevation, whether you were impacted by surge or not. We've seen from pictures out of Galveston after Hurricane Ike, just 9 years ago. This island here, the Boulevard Peninsula, just east of Galveston, was covered in homes, on stilts, above the water level. But the surge was 15 feet with waves on top of that. Those waves can be destructive, especially along a barrier island where there's nothing to stop it. We lost 3,000 homes on the Texas coast from Ike due to surge. So, are we in a surge zone? Yes, we are. The entire Texas coast is vulnerable to storm surge. It's a low-lying coastal area. The National Hurricane Center created some maps, these maps in fact, that are available online for you to view at any time. You go to our website, weather.gov. That's easy to remember, weather.gov/Corpus Christi. If you go to our webpage, down at the bottom it says storm surge maps, and you can zoom in and see maps just like this. You can look a little bit closer into your neighborhoods to see, where your home might reside. These are worst case scenario maps based on the National Weather Service storm surge slosh model. Thousands of simulations were run to create these maps, categories 1 through 5, and so it's showing us how deep the water might get and how far inland from the coast that water could go, especially in that worst case here, the last graphic on the animation, that was category 5. So there's a pretty big impact. You can see the barrier island. The red areas are water depths greater than 9 feet above ground level. So the elevation has already been subtracted out, showing you water depths at each of those locations. Yes, sir.
Are you saying there's more damage done by the storm surge than wind?
Absolutely. And it's those destructive waves that are on top of the surge together combined that is way more powerful than the wind.
It's just kind of ironic that flood insurance is much less expensive than the windstorm insurance, and yet the surge causes more damage.
It's true.
FEMA subsidized.
Depends on, FEMA subsidizes that. So anyway, so that's storm surge. The next hazard is the wind. The wind is how we categorize the storm. You hear about a category 1 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. It's only a wind scale. It doesn't tell us anything about storm surge, about rain, about tornadoes, just the wind. In fact, the scale isn't very effective at telling us the dangers that may be approaching with this storm. You can be misled if you only look at this category. A lot of people I talk to will say, well, I'm going to write out a category 1 or 2. It's those category 3s and above when I'm going to leave the area or execute my hurricane plan. And that could be dangerous because it's not the category, it's not the wind speed in particular, it is the storm surge. The storm surge is not tied to these categories. For example, Hurricane Ike. What was the category of that storm? It's category 2. But it had a 16 to 20 foot storm surge, a massive surge. On the flip side, you can have a small storm like Hurricane Charlie that hit the Florida Peninsula. Category 4 hurricane. Only had a 5 foot surge. How is that possible? It was only 5 miles in diameter. It was a very small, compact eye. So there's a lot of variables. So just don't base all your plans on the category, on the winds. Whenever you hear about approaching hurricane, always ask, what's the storm surge going to be? And we'll get into that in a little bit. A category 3 and above we call major hurricane. Now that's where the wind does start to cause considerable damage. Typically exceeds our local building codes. And so you're going to see widespread damage, failures of windows and doors and roofs and garage doors. And there are 2 terms to describe the type of damage from a category 3. The damage is devastating to a community. Wholesale neighborhoods can be damaged or destroyed by a category 3 storm. That's what Celia was in 1970. A category 4 and 5, the word catastrophic is used, and we just never want to see any of these come in this area. But one day they will. So how do we protect our homes from the wind? The object is to button them up tight. Keep them secure so that the wind and rain cannot come inside. Every window, every door, your garage doors need to be very well secured, either from professional storm shutters, homemade shutters, bracing your garage doors, which are often the weakest link. Once the wind penetrates through a single opening, in this example, this picture window broke through. Now the wind is going in and it took off the roof. A total loss of the interior contents. Where the wind goes in, it has to go out. Tremendous pressure builds up. It can't all just stay inside, so there's a tremendous wind pressure, and so here in this example, it blew out the wall. Garage door failed, blew out the exterior wall. Make sure your roof is attached. It sounds kind of silly, but it's true. A lot of times, homes are built, and you go up in the attic and you look, and you see the nails may not actually be penetrating into the rafters. That's a weak spot. So go up in your attic and check to make sure that you don't have any shiners, they call these. Because if you do, the roof may not be secure, and the whole roof deck might come off, like in this example. And again, total loss. Here is a video that's really informative about the difference between building codes.
For Hurricane Charlie, the first of 4 major storms in a historic hurricane season, hit the southwest coast of Florida. In its path were longtime Florida residents Chris and Jerry Webb in a home they had just built, and Jim Minardi and Teresa Fogolini in a home built in the 60s. Even though the 2 homes are right next to one another, their experiences could not have been more different.
The howling was incredible. Just picked up our roof, threw it into the sailboat, threw it into their pool cage, and threw a lot of the stuff into the canal. It was really scary at that point.
While Jim Minardi found it necessary to vacate his home at the storm's peak, Chris and Jerry Webb were relatively unfazed by staying put.
We felt very comfortable in our home, and I felt comfortable as far as having others come here out of the storm.
Why did one homeowner sustain only minor damage when his neighbor's house was severely impacted? In short, the difference in the building codes and practices when the 2 homes were constructed. Many of Florida's building practices were bolstered in recent years in the wake of the damage left by Hurricane Andrew.
There were lessons learned in Andrew that were brought here even before the building codes totally caught up with the changes that needed to be in place. And then since the codes have caught up with that, the newer construction has done quite well.
I certainly feel that I would not have felt comfortable in a lot of the homes that were built in the late 60s or early 70s with essentially no hurricane code at that time. The current hurricane codes, if you look around Punta Gorda, made a heck of a difference.
But for those without the protection of upgraded building codes and enhanced building practices, there is only frustration.
The added cost, I think, is insignificant compared to the disaster that takes place when you totally lose your home and contents and things that really aren't replaceable.
That's the message that organizations like IBHS, FEMA, and the Federal Alliance for Safe Homes have been preaching ever since Hurricane Andrew. It may cost a little more to build a home right, but it's worth it.
Some of the most satisfied and proud people in the state of Florida right now are the builders who build with quality in mind and have customers who were safe inside their homes and whose lives were not disrupted. Those are really some of the true heroes of this hurricane season.
And it's not only the homeowners who benefit when houses withstand the storm.
For every house that is built in a safer way in a hurricane-prone area, it's really a long-term savings for the federal government and taxpayer, because those are less dollars that the federal government has to spend on temporary housing, on debris pickup, on other kinds of emergency services.
What is the key to storm-resistant construction? Keeping its connections in place, roof to wall, floor to floor, and floor to foundation. The roof is your first line of defense in a storm. Securely anchor roof to wall connections by installing hurricane clips. Secure floor to floor connections by making sure each floor is connected to the one below, also with straps or clips. Wall to foundation connections should be made through the use of anchor bolts. The other key to home survival is keeping windows in place so wind cannot penetrate your home and compromise it from within. Though these loss prevention measures are an investment in your home, it's one that Jim and Teresa wish now that they had made.
Spend that extra money, because I think you're just asking for trouble. You're going to go through something, whether it's 5 years from now or 40 years from now, and you're going to end up in a situation where you have a house potentially like this, and you're without a home, have to rebuild or even repair.
So I have a series of videos, a couple of more short ones that kind of help us in providing some preparedness tips for both our roof, our window coverings, etc. So just a couple of more videos to watch.
The roof covering and the deck underneath form one of your home's critical shields of protection from high winds and rain. Unfortunately, this shield is often the first to be lost during hurricanes and tornadoes. Loss of the shingles, tiles, or metal panels makes the house more vulnerable to water damage. The loose roofing material inevitably becomes windborne debris that can damage your home and other structures. But while the loss of roofing can make your home vulnerable to water infiltration, loss of the roof deck, often referred to as sheathing, can result in excessive damage to your home and your possessions. As wind blows over the roof, strong uplift forces pull on the roof. These uplift forces try to pull off the roof covering and the roof deck. If the roof deck is blown off, the inside of your home becomes completely exposed to the elements. Trusses or rafters may become unstable, and the entire roof structure may collapse. The following techniques can be used during roof installation on both new and existing homes and are best performed by a licensed contractor. For new construction, install a roof deck of 5/8 thick plywood to maximize wind and windborne debris resistance, with 8-penny ring shank nails spaced 6 inches apart at all connections. Make sure that the nails penetrate directly into the roof framing. In your existing home, be sure to look in the attic to confirm that the roof decking is properly nailed to the roof framing. If you can see nails along the sides of rafters or trusses where the nail penetrates the decking, your roof deck may not be securely attached. For new construction or when installing a new roof covering, you can create a secondary water barrier by installing self-adhering flashing tape or modified polymer bitumen strips such as peel and seal over the joints in your roof deck. This will help keep out the rain in the event the roof covering is damaged or destroyed by severe weather. If you are not installing a new roof covering, the use of a spray foam adhesive can secure the roof deck. Install one layer of number 30 underlayment, sometimes called felt paper, over the roof decking and secondary water barrier. The felt helps with drainage in the event water gets under the roof covering. Install a roof covering that has been tested to meet current building code requirements, such as ASTM D3161, modified for 110 miles per hour, or UL 2390 for wind resistance, and UL 2218 for impact resistance. Be sure to specify these standards and look for labels on the products confirming these standards. If you are not able to fasten the roof deck with 8D ring shank nails or foam adhesive, you can significantly increase the roof's resistance to uplift from the wind by applying a bead of construction adhesive using a caulking gun along both sides of the intersection of the roof decking and the rafters or trusses. Be sure to look for an adhesive that has been tested to specific levels. For more information about protecting your home from disaster, visit www.flash.org today.
So some helpful tips that you might not have seen before, and this website, flash.org, is really good. The Federal Alliance for Safe Homes, and that's where the videos are found, and you can access those even after today's session. Just access them online. I think I have one more video to show, just doing a wind inspection around your home.
Hi, this is Mike from Flash. We get a lot of calls from homeowners asking what they can do to protect their homes during hurricane season or high wind events. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about some of those things. We're going to talk about things you can do in 1 hour, 1 day, or 1 weekend. Now, first, you're going to want to go to our website and print out the checklist, and once you do that, we can get started. So go print it. Well, we've got our checklist and we're ready to go. Now, I already see one item that I'm going to put down on my 1-day project list under landscaping, and that's these trees. We've got some huge branches overhanging the house, and that's scary, right?
Okay, video's not working, so I'm going to skip that. But the bottom line is do an inspection around your home, and first of all, look for overhanging trees. Trees coming down on your property is significant. Clean out gutters. And they also recommend if you have rotten gravel around your home as a landscaping, that it becomes a flying projectile. Even though it's on the ground, or in a hurricane, that can be thrown and break windows and cause other problems. So they recommend, as a 1-day project, is replacing rock gravel around your home with a mulch type product. So just something to keep in mind. That's a big project. So next, we've talked about storm surge, we talked about wind and some wind protection around our home. Next is rainfall and flooding. In a storm, it's going to rain, and it can rain a lot. In past storms like Beulah, 1967, we got 20 to 30 inches of rain. Pretty widespread over South Texas. And that caused pretty significant flooding, where hundreds, if not thousands, of homes were inundated from the Rio Grande Valley all the way up to the Victoria area. In Houston, we had a similar event in 2001. A tropical storm named Allison dropped 40 inches of rain in a city of 6 million people. So that caused a lot of flooding, and 73,000 homes were flooded in that hurricane. Most people didn't have flood insurance. So keep in mind that rainfall, don't ignore it. We have a lot of reasons to get flood insurance on the island. Next, tornadoes, they're touching down to add insult to injury. They're touching down primarily in the outskirts of the storm. So as we are buttoning up our homes and going through that hurricane watch phase and about to evacuate, tornadoes could be approaching the shore. So keep that in mind. So how do you stay informed when a storm threatens? I recommend you go right to the source. Go right to the National Hurricane Center. They're the experts. They send the hurricane planes, they run the computer models, they're the experts in hurricane forecasting. So their website is easy to remember, hurricanes.gov. If you look there right now, you'll see there's a disturbance out there, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Our local webpage, weather.gov/Corpus Christi. That's where I said you can get those storm surge maps. So another important website to jot down, or just take a picture with your phone. Email, if you are interested in receiving email bulletins from us, send me an email and I'll add you to our list. so you can stay informed on any potential weather hazards here in South Texas. And we'll be pushing information out on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Our handle is at NWS Corpus. Lastly, what phones were designed for in the first place? Calling. That's our phone number. We answer it 24/7. We're at the airport in Corpus Christi, and we never close. We're like 911 for weather. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to call us. We're happy to help. Everybody got that? I see phones taking pictures, so I'll hold on for a minute. Okay, I'll share this presentation with you so that you can share it with everyone, if that helps. So, what's going on in the tropics? This was actually last night's information. I didn't have a chance to update it with today, but anyway, if you go to the HurricaneTownHall2017-06-15HD website, that's the National Hurricane Center, you'll see a map like this right on the front page. It shows you, first off, any areas that they're concerned about, areas of disturbed weather that could show signs of development over the next 24 hours, 48, or 5 days. And so out there's two little disturbances that are being monitored at this time. One that could form over the Yucatan Peninsula later this weekend, and another one coming off Africa and moving across the Atlantic. So both of these are color-coded, and they're showing a yellow color, which means a low probability of formation. That means that generally, not expected, low probability of formation means that they're going to watch it, but there's not enough information yet in the models to show that something actually may happen. But if you watch it, if you look at this map today, this was updated, now it shows a 50% probability, a medium chance, of some type of disturbance, of depression forming near the Yucatan Peninsula, possibly in the Gulf of Mexico. So bottom line is, it bears watching. There's nothing out there right now, but it also further reiterates our need to be prepared, because you just never know, these things can form quickly. And so if a storm does develop, then you'll see it on the Hurricanes.gov website. They'll show you the forecast of where it's expected to go in the next 5 days and the various hazards and impacts that we can expect. This map updates 4 times a day online, so it's always got the latest information. Once a watch is in effect, hurricane watch, what does that mean? That means we're down to 48 hours until the possibility of tropical storm force winds moving into the area. That's not much time. That is not the time to start your hurricane preparations for the very first time. You need to be executing your plan. Everything is already assembled. You're getting ready, you're starting to board up your home, you're starting to prepare to bring things inside, maybe load your vehicle, and be thinking about evacuations and kind of talking about where you're going if you don't already have that plan. A hurricane warning means we're down to 36 hours till the wind starts to blow. We're more confident that a hurricane, tropical storm or hurricane conditions are expected. And just be aware that this is kind of a time frame that evacuation decisions may be coming soon thereafter. So when we get to these time frames, you want to be ready well ahead of time. Don't wait until you see these to start your plan for the first time. Something new this year. We now have the ability to warn citizens for the deadliest hazard, storm surge. So now we have the ability to issue a storm surge watch and a storm surge warning. What does that mean? That means if there's a watch, there is a possibility of life-threatening inundation from storm surge within that 48-hour time period. And a warning means now it's a danger. That means it is more certain. The water depths 3 feet above ground level or greater are expected in the warning area. If you hear about a storm surge warning, you want to check the map. Go to hurricanes.gov, check the map, see if you are in the pink area, because if you are, you need to be doing something to protect your life. You might be notified about a storm surge warning on your smartphone, because that we now have the ability to activate mobile devices through wireless emergency alerts. It might say storm surge warning. Check to see if evacuation orders have been issued for your area, something like that. So be aware. Once that hurricane watch goes up, this neat new product becomes available, the Potential Storm Surge Flood Map. We really haven't had anything like this before. It is a powerful tool. The National Hurricane Center runs their storm surge model many times to produce this graphic. It's not a worst case scenario map, it's a reasonable worst case scenario map. It accounts for about 90% of all the possible scenarios that could occur with this approaching storm. It tells us how deep the water might get and how far inland from the coast the water might go. Again, the red areas match up with the same colors we showed you earlier. Red is water levels greater than 9 feet above ground level. The blue greater than or up to 3 feet above ground level. So it's not telling us that these types of conditions are expected everywhere, but they could be reached in some locations. It's a planning tool really for emergency managers and elected officials to use in kind of determining which areas to evacuate for the storm. Yes, ma'am?
Has it had any real-world application yet?
A little bit. We used it last year during Hurricane Matthew on the East Coast.
How accurate was it?
So it is, again, it is a reasonable worst case scenario. So really kind of only used once. And truthfully, I have not seen the results from that particular case. So again, it's going to represent how high the water could get at any one location. So it's, again, reasonable worst case scenario. There's a 10% chance water level could be higher than this in some spots. So keep that in mind. So this comes out when a storm surge watch is issued or a hurricane watch is issued. And it updates every 6 hours until the storm makes landfall. Yes?
Is it generated by the National Weather Service?
Yes, it is.
Data?
Yes, it is. It's an automatically produced map. So 9 years have passed, folks, since we've last really, truthfully, had to do any preparedness and boarding up around our house for a storm. 9 years since Ike. So what do? How do we get prepared? So we need a plan. We need to do 4 things. Strengthen our home. We need to go shopping for supplies. We need to check our insurance. And we need to plan our evacuation. So strengthening our home, we kind of talked about this quite a bit. You got storm shutters. You want to make sure every window and door is protected. Storm shutters like this, plywood, the ones that you can make yourself are the most affordable. $20 to $30 a window versus a couple of $100 a window up to $1,000 or so, even for some of these more elaborate professional shutters. It's up to you on what you want to do, the convenience factor, and the cost. Make sure it meets the local codes for hurricane code in this area. Make sure your garage doors are well secured. These can be big fail points in a storm where the railings can bend from the high pressure of the wind on the outside of this door, and it can cause it to break loose. Check your door and make sure you have these horizontal beams going behind. The newest homes have hurricane doors installed, and they have these beams which give added strength and protection. If you don't, check with a garage door company in the local area and see what you can do to strengthen your garage door. Next, we need to go shopping. The convenience is that this weekend is here, and there's no storm threatening right now, so there's plenty of supplies. You can use coupons, you can take advantage of sales, you can get the supplies you need, non-perishable food and water, diapers for kids, extra toilet paper, flashlight and batteries, medicines, pet foods. Store all this stuff in stackable bins, nice and neat in a garage or in a closet. A 7-day supply is recommended. Remember, the power could be out for some time. Could be out for a week or more, several weeks in fact. I know in Hurricane Ike in Lufkin, Texas, 100 miles inland from the coast, power was out in that area for up to 6 weeks. That's a long time. So how much water do we need? You need about a gallon of water for each person in your home for each day. Remember, it's going to be hot. Air conditioner not blowing. We're going to be consuming more and sweating more, have the risk of dehydration. It's the summer around here. It's hot and humid. Storms don't like to hit in the winter for some reason. Next, we need to check our insurance. Make an appointment with your agent. Find out what coverage you have, that you have enough to replace your home if it were to be totally destroyed. In Texas, we need 3 policies. You need windstorm, you need your fire and theft policy, and flood. 3 separate policies you should be able to get through your one insurance agent. So make an appointment, sit down with them for 45 minutes to an hour and go over them, the type of coverage you have and what you're going to need. How are you going to find them after the storm? What's the filing a claim process? They're going to tell you, conduct a home inventory. As part of filing your claim and closing out that claim, they're going to ask you to list everything you had. Boy, that's a long list. What are all the things you had inside that house? So I recommend going around and taking pictures. Use your phone, use a camera, take pictures in every room, in every closet, pull out the drawers, kitchen drawers, your dresser drawers, take pictures, and save that up on the cloud. And then after the storm, you've got that documented. You can go and very easily write down all those things because that's what you're going to be reimbursed for as part of the contents portion of your policy. Here's some more tips.
Documents, computer disks, artwork, and family photographs. Next, we want to make sure that our insurance is up to date and that we have the correct policy to suit our needs. What do we need?
Try to get good coverage with a company that you're familiar with, that you know the agent, and you're familiar with the company. That's one thing. We look and read the coverages that you're getting. We recommend people get a replacement value coverage as opposed to a cash value coverage, because cash value, although it may save a little bit of money, is a discounted value. For example, on a content policy, if you pay $1,000 for a sofa and you had a cash value policy, the sofa was 5 years old, you may only get $200 or $300 for that sofa. However, if you have a replacement value policy and the couch that you bought 5 years ago cost $1,000 and to replace it costs $1,100, you'll get the $1,100 to replace it. So we think that it's well worth the additional few dollars to have that type of coverage.
Every homeowner needs to sit down with their professional insurance counselor and go over with them the value of their home, what it would cost to rebuild it today if it were to be totally destroyed, to evaluate all of their personal possessions to make sure that they have adequate coverages there in terms of just normal household items as furniture and linens and that sort of thing, but also in terms of jewelry, any special collections that they have or anything like that. If they're in a flood zone, they need to make sure that they have adequate flood protection, not only for their building, but for their contents. We find a lot of people that will insure their home against flood, but the contents have no coverage. You ought to take some sort of an inventory of your possessions, whether it be a written inventory with serial numbers written down and brands and approximate prices, or whether it's simply photographs that you go around your home and make sure that you photograph anything in your home, keep that in a safe place. Maybe a video inventory where you walk around with your video camera talking about the things you have. If you have a total loss at your home, it's very hard for you to remember everything that you had. And what this will do is help you be in a position that if you have to list these things, you'll be able to do that. The primary thing that I'd like to emphasize to everybody is you need to make an appointment. You need to go in and you need to sit down with your agent or whoever you do your insurance business with to make sure these things are done.
Lastly, evacuations. Make sure you know where you're going and how you're going to get there. Fortunately, along the Texas coast, we have many routes to escape. Interstate 37, the primary route we're all familiar with. But it can get congested in a hurricane evacuation, so you might want to leave early to avoid the rush. Otherwise, we do have alternate routes. We've got Highway 181 from Sinton to Beeville, heading northward, less traveled. Go west out toward Alice, 281 north, another road that is less traveled. Or you can go out to Freer, the home of the Rattlesnake Roundup. Highway 16 North, another route. So being familiar with those roads is handy in a storm. So next time you go to San Antonio, you might take one of those roads just so you're familiar with the landscape. It becomes less stressful in a real situation. So what are we in for this hurricane season? NOAA's official forecast calls for a slightly above normal season, about a 40% chance of above normal season. This is what normal looks like: 12 storms, 6 hurricanes, 2 major. So we're talking about a few more than this. And that includes development over the entire Atlantic basin, the Atlantic, Gulf Caribbean, and Gulf of Mexico. But folks, don't be distracted by these types of outlooks. They really aren't very helpful to us. In fact, they can be a distraction. They can mislead you in a lack of preparedness. Because even in a quiet season, 1983 for example, we only had 4 storms the whole season. But 2 of them were hurricanes, and both hit Texas. So it only takes one. None of these forecasts for the hurricane season can tell us the critical thing, is if we're going to have a storm or not. So please get prepared. Thank you, and have a safe hurricane season. Anyone have any questions?
Got a fairly new house, and it's got hurricane windows.
Impact resistant windows?
Resistant, pretty thick. Are those?
As far as I understand, impact resistant windows work really well as long as they're rated to a particular code based on the new building codes. If debris hits those types of windows, they're going to shatter, they're going to break, but they do a good job of keeping the debris from coming inside. So it does give you that protection. So those should do quite well in a hurricane. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
You said they still do shatter. Is it recommended to still cover them with wood or something?
It's a personal preference. It's a personal preference. Yes, sir.
You guys have any experience with the new ballistic cloth they have for windows?
Yeah, I've read about the ballistic cloth. I've heard that it works well. I know commercial structures. I know I've seen fire stations and garages will use that as a type of wind protection, and they seem to work really well. It does keep the wind out. I don't have any personal experience, just what I've read. Yes, sir.
What's the height of storm surge that will make the causeway impassable?
So that's a good question. I know the causeway, I think when it was raised to 9 feet, is kind of the average elevation. I don't know what the low spot is, though. I don't know what the lowest elevation is. That might be a good question for TxDOT. I don't know if you know, Billy.
TxDOT.
Yeah, that's a critical one. But hopefully you're long gone before you have to experience that.
Maybe because that how this audience can be
I won't be there to measure. Anyone else? All right, folks, I'll turn it over to Billy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. John is the best, one of the best in the nation on weather information, so we're very lucky to have him in this area, in this community. Not only that, the National Weather Service will put a meteorologist in our EOC during the time of a major emergency, and they still come into our activations now with the floods. So we have a very close relationship with the National Weather Service, and we'll continue to do that.
It won't be John, because he said he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
I said I won't be on the island.
You won't be on the island. That's me, and that's Christina. Christina's over there. We are the Office of Emergency Management. That's our operations center. That's where we're at during times of emergency. That's where we've been. We've activated 13 times this year, 17 times last year, and 19 times the year before that. So we are pretty active in our emergency operations center. We're a central location where groups of people, different organizations, can get together and make decisions during times of crisis. Everybody's in the room, all the decisions are made as far as the event, but we don't run the event. We give resources, we give advice, and we help with managing decisions. Part of our functions there, we don't go out in field, and that's for our heroes, our first responders that do that. We don't tell them what to do in the field. What we do is we give them strategic direction and control, situational assistance, coordination, establish priorities. Main thing is we make sure that they have the equipment they need to take care of you and to take care of whatever operation they're going for. It could be a flooding, it could be a major fire, it could be the wreck on the Harbor Bridge a month ago. So we make sure that they have all the equipment, all the necessary stuff that they need. The main thing is communication, not only with the public, but with our surrounding partners that are going to help us during this time. City of Corpus Christi, it's its own jurisdiction, even though we're within Nueces County. The mayor is the chief elected official. He is considered the emergency management director for the city of Corpus Christi. Nueces County has the judge, Robstown has a mayor, and Port Aransas has a mayor. But even though we're on jurisdictions, we're always communicating with each other. We're always on the same page on what we're going to do and what decisions are made. So the National Weather Service, John and his team, are Texas Emergency Management, and are 2-in-1. That's the type of the cycle that we do in our emergency management: prevention and mitigation, preparedness, which we do year-round, but at this time we're doing a lot of it. Then the response, and then the recovery. I want to say that we, the city of Corpus Christi, is prepared. We meet, we train, we're ready to respond, and we have responded to multiple floodings. In the recovery, we're ready for the recovery. We're one of the few cities and jurisdictions that has a debris management FEMA accepted plan. That's pretty hard to get. It took us 2 years to do it, but went all the way up from the state to the federal government. They studied it, they came back, asked questions, and they finally accepted the plan of Corpus Christi. Really came in big when we had the tornado in 2015 down Tarleton. We were able to, because of our plan, we already had our plans in place for the contract. The total damage was about $250,000 of debris cleanup. Because of our plan, we were able to, I don't want to say slide through, but our plan, we're able to get through FEMA as quick as we can, and because we had that plan, we did it within 30 days, so that $230,000, we received 85% back. So that's how progressive and in the recovery phase, and we always say Mother Nature is going to win no matter what. But we have to plan for the worst, and John showed the surges, and that's the key issue. Emergency management, it's all local. Everything starts local. We always work with our county. If we need resources, we shoot up the chain. Whatever we don't need, we ask for. And then if it has to go, if the state doesn't have the equipment we need, they'll go to the federal government, and then it works its way back down to us. We plan year-round. We think it's key, your planning, what you do every day, what you're going to do when you leave. We meet with city departments. We met with the police department. I don't know if you saw the news last night. We were meeting with the police department, and they took over their plans. We meet with all our outside agencies, and we do presentations, because presentations coming out to the public is most important. We feel that it's most important because that way you're hearing from us and you can talk to us directly, and we will answer the questions the best we can. We have a lot of community partners. Salvation Army, Red Cross are our two big ones that we do during times of disaster, but we have other Walmart, H-E-B, Stripes. All those agencies, all those stores are always there to help us whenever we need anything. What can happen? Obviously, we're talking hurricanes. But that's not the only thing that can happen. That's not the thing that has happened in the city of Corpus Christi. Go down 37, what do you see? You know, we had the pneumonia last week, or was it this week? So we responded to that incident with our hazmat team. We were responding, so we're always aware of what's going on. That was Corpus Christi, probably a month ago. 2 weeks ago. That was right there in front of the courthouse. It's flooding, and you can't see, but that thing's blocking. There's an armored truck over there, and the discussion was who wants to go check it out. So a lot of people wanted to go see if there was an armored truck what was inside, but there wasn't anything inside there. Tornado, the one we just talked about, the one in 2015, that's actual pictures of the tornado damages. We have different levels of activation. Christina and I are always on level 4. Our time clock's at 8 to 5, but we're 24/7. Increased readiness, we could say that was the ammonia because it could have escalated, but they handled it within there, but we increased our readiness on whatever we needed to do. Escalator response, there's a bunch of those. The flooding, the overturn, the wreck on Harbor Bridge, the gas leak, water issue, that's increased escalated our response. And then the emergency conditions, which is a hurricane. John talked about your plans and talked about your houses. We're going to talk more about what you need to do as far as evaluate your neighborhood, evaluate if you're in a low-lying area, what are the potential hazards. John talked about the trees. Look at your lines, your electrical lines. Just know your surroundings, know your neighborhood, and what could happen and what will happen. Talk to your family. Have you talked to your family about your emergency plan? Have you talked to your family what you're going to do if you have to evacuate? Do your family members know that are out of town that you're going to go over there when there's an emergency? Or are you going to surprise them? Talk to your family. Talk to your kids. You know what? The younger generation, they're pretty smart. They have good ideas. I learned a heck of a lot about Facebook and Twitter when Christina came and worked with us. They're pretty smart. Talk to them. They have good ideas. What are you going to do? Make your decision now. Why wait? Where are you going to go if you do evacuate? And we're going to be honest here. You're not you're out on that high flood zone there. You know, you're in the low line. So you have to know what you're going to do if you're going to evacuate. Where are you going to go? If it's not a full evacuation of the city, then you just kind of go on the other side of town. Make sure you have it in writing. Stay in touch with family members, which is the most important thing. Because what's the national news going to show, even if it's just one block that's flooded? They're going to show that block. And again, and you're going to loop it and loop it and loop it. And here you are, your family members are in California, Los Angeles, and they see that one thing and they're so worried about you. And even though you know you're okay, just make that phone call, say, hey, we're fine. Prepare your home. John talked about this. Pick up loose items. Trim your trees. Cover your windows, plywood. Clean out your refrigerator. One thing in Galveston, they were prepared, they left. But what they didn't do was clean out the refrigerator. So when they came back and they were able to live in their house, and their house wasn't totally destroyed, they had to get rid of the refrigerator because there was all that stuff still in the refrigerator. So have a big block party, or 120 hours out, throw a big barbecue, get everything out of your refrigerator, and then unplug your electrical items. John talked about a survival kit. We'll go a little bit in depth. The bottled water, the food, the supplies. Make sure you have your medication. Increase your, if you know something's coming, get with your doctor. Maybe if your prescription is like me, always wait till we've got one left. And then we go to the doctor and say, hey doc, I need another refill. Okay? Think about that. If you have babies, pets are family. That's the way we look at it in City of Corpus Christi. We know that some people aren't going to leave. Their pets aren't going to be able to go. I know my mother's not going anywhere if she doesn't take Ariel with her. Copies of important documents. And this is in the book that, in the packet that we're going to be giving out. It's got a lot of good information. Christi, you want to show the document bag? It's a document bag with a lot of information, and it's a sealed water bag, and everybody's going to get one. It's got a lot of information on it, what to put in it. Make sure you have all your certificates that you need, your social security numbers, your driver's license, account numbers, your bank numbers, and keep those. And remember, these are secure documents. They're not out there for the public. All your insurance policies, health insurance, cash. ATM's going to go down, right? Cash. One thing that's not on the list that when we talk to people, thing they really miss if they don't save is the pictures. Pictures of the kids, pictures of their parents, pictures of everything. That I see a lot of people look at each other, so it is important to everybody, right? Okay, we're going to talk evacuation, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have. But City of Corpus Christi, like John said, we take this very serious. You have to. We plan because we're going to get hit by a hurricane. We are. And we plan it's going to be this year. That's the way we need to think. It's not a good thing to say. It's not a good thing to think. But if our emergency management office doesn't think that, we're not doing the job for y'all. So we plan that we're going to get hit. We plan what we need to do when we're going to get hit. It only takes one. What are we looking at? Storm surge. And we keep saying that over and over and over. And the misconception was 4 or 5 years ago, it was the category. Everybody worried about the category. That's it right there. How big is it? How fast is it? That's Ike right there. And you can see it was headed right to Corpus Christi till about 1:30 in the morning. Then it made a little twitch and it headed everywhere. But what we do is we have these conference calls with the state operations center, and the mayor and the city manager and a group of us are sitting there. The last thing they told us was, "God bless you, Corpus Christi, and good luck." And so our fire chief said, "Y'all go home, get some rest, and then come back tomorrow." How are you going to go get some rest after that message? Luckily, it made that little twitch, and we just kind of threw a party. Sorry for Galveston, though. I mean, we don't want to wish on anybody. But we're looking at all that. That's how we're making our decisions on if we call for an evacuation. The cone of air, John touched on the cone of air a little bit. And I'm not a weather guy, and I let John do his thing. But all I know is when you see that black line right in the middle of the cone of air, right, John? Don't pay attention to it. They're not that good. He said it.
How soon before a hurricane hits does the storm surge expectations show up?
That's John.
So it depends. Every storm is different. So in a big storm, so the question was, the storm surge, could it come in before the wind? Could it come in, how much in advance of a hurricane could the hurricane?
How much in advance,
And that's going to vary by storm, but in a bigger storm, that surge could be out in front of the storm maybe by a full day. With the case of Ike, the water was rising a full day before the storm hit the coast, and areas were inundated.
How far in advance of that surge hitting the coast would the weather service give us a warning about this is going to be an 8-foot surge, a 7-foot surge?
So again, that's around that 48-hour window when a hurricane watch goes up. So 48 hours in advance of storm surge approaching the coast. That is the expectation. That is when we have the best information starting to come in. That's when the Hurricane Center is going to run their models and provide those maps that I showed you. And we're going to be talking to them continuously from when the storm first starts 5 days out. We're talking to the Hurricane Center every 6 hours. And then all that information goes into our hurricane statements and warnings. It goes to Billy at the Emergency Operations Center so that we make sure it helps them with that evacuation decision to make sure people are out of harm's way before those hazards move in.
Thank you.
And again, we're always in communication, and that's one of the new tools. Yes, sir?
You gotta bring it home because my house is 9-foot elevation, and I'll bet you money that everybody is here. We all live on the house, and many of us do. How does that affect storm surge? I mean, we've got the dunes out here that hopefully are a little bigger than 9 feet. Can you bring it home to our island where we live? What the surge?
So,
does it come up the canals?
So you're going to have, you know, a massive buildup of water out in the ocean ahead of the storm, right? That could be 100 to 200 miles wide. And so, depending on the storm, let's say it was similar to Ike. Let's say we have a surge that's anticipated to be close to 15 feet. So that water came in the day before, and it's rising out ahead of the storm. So it came up in the Galveston area, for example, and it started to inundate the low areas around the island. So here on the island, the peninsula, is a 361, and the Park Road, 361 out to Port Aransas has low spots. So those areas are going to immediately start to flood. So it's going to come through the passes where the dunes are low. It's going to come into those areas first. It's going to come in through the ship channel at Port Aransas and start flooding in the backside. So the whole, you know how the tide cycles are in October or in the fall when the tide levels are up. They are up about 1 foot to 1.5 feet above normal, and it starts to flood, by Snoopy's, and we see the higher than normal water levels. And it can very quickly get around. Only probably a 4 to 6 hour delay for that water to get through the ship channel and through Packery Channel and start inundating the backside of the island. And so those water levels rise very quickly. So it's going to start going up the canals. It's basically going to be rising from both sides with about a 6 hour delay. And so then as the peak of the storm approaches, then it's gradually increasing as the storm gets closer and those waves are on top of that. And so it's going to be battering those dunes, knocking them down. And it's going to be flattening them in a lot of places. It's going to reopen those passes that were, silted in after the last storms. And so, it's going to have a pretty destructive force, especially with Packery Channel now. We've got a nice big door to bring all that water right in a very fast motion. And it's going to hit that seawall out there. The seawall's, 1.5 miles long, so it's not very big. It's just a little blimp in the perspective of storm surge. And so, it's going to eventually, in a storm like Ike, it could overtop then the island, water depths, 4 to 6 feet deep, maybe higher in some areas. Just depends. So that's kind of how it works. And then once you get past the eye of the storm, the winds are driving the water levels in the opposite direction. And it starts to pretty quickly recede on the backside. If you're close to the eye and it's driving those winds offshore, it's going to push that water out, fairly quickly. But every storm is different. The angle of approach is going to make a difference. We've had storms come up the Texas coast, south to north. We've had storms that are going to go east to west, like the 1919 storm. That's kind of worst case scenario. And so there's so many different possible scenarios that could occur. But hopefully that kind of gives a visual to what might happen.
I appreciate it. That's why you're not going to be on the island.
It was my understanding that it was mandatory to get off the island at some point.
Yes, we'll make that decision. And I'm going to show you the
Could
map.
you let us know at what point?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm going to get to it.
48 hours that we're getting ready, how long do we really have?
And I'm going to go through that.
Okay, thank
time frame. Anybody else? Okay, these are the trigger points in making decisions. We'll brief the mayor and brief city manager. And then what the city does is we're in a phased evacuation. That's the plan. It's based on storm surge. We start monitoring the storm 120 hours out. So we're constantly watching that thing 120 hours out. We'll start having our calls with the National Weather Service. We'll start having our calls with the State Operations Center. And as it gets closer, we'll start having calls twice a day, 120 hours out. We know by a study how long it takes to evacuate the coastal bend, depending on the worst case scenario. So what we do is we start planning. We want to be through with our evacuation. We want people out of harm's way 3 hours prior to tropical storm winds. And so it's, when I get asked the question how long and how many hours, it's hard to answer because every storm is different. But I can tell you this, we're constantly monitoring, and we know that, remember, Port Aransas goes through here too, because they're not all going to take that ferry. They're going to bring in a lot of ferries if they're going to bring it. But we know that we have to make sure that y'all are safe. We know that your phase, your zone 8, we know that we want high profile vehicles off the highways as quick as possible or through the highways. The worst thing that can happen is a bunch of boats on trailers, flat tires. So that's going to be our first call. It's going to be, and plenty of time. We're not going to evacuate people when the storm's approaching. We're going to be, in fact, people are going to say, well, why are we evacuating? It's so beautiful. No wind, hot, sunny, but we know what's coming. And like I said, 120 hours out, we're watching it. As we get closer, we start ramping it up. At 120, it's Christina and myself. About 80, we bring in others. 70, bring in others. And 60, we're probably at full emergency management, that level, highest level. Yes, sir.
If we're evacuating when it's still sunny and bright and the weather's nice, are there any provisions in place to increase police protection for the island? Because all the homes are going to be vacant.
The police department has plans for the whole city, not just the island. We're going to evacuate, and the police department will be monitoring the traffic as it goes out.
Well, no,
I know what you're saying, but no, if you're saying that is police going to be in the neighborhoods, they're going to be doing their regular patrols until they can't get out. They're not leaving when you leave.
Yeah, but see, the regular patrols is not going to do us much good if people know all the homes on the island are vacant. You know, it's...
Yes, we plan for increase. That's a police department plan, and I'll take it to them. But if I can't say that they're going to be in every neighborhood watching every house. I mean, that's they just can't.
No, I understand that, but I mean, are they going to stop people from coming?
Well, everything's going out. Yeah, everything's going out. We're not letting anybody in because we're evacuating the island. We're not going to let anybody come in. And that's probably the question you were asking. And I apologize if I didn't understand it correctly. We're not going to let people come in and say, oh, let's go see the island, let's go see what's going on, because we know they're leaving and we know those neighborhoods are going to be vacant. No, that's not going to happen. Yes, ma'am.
Is the city looking at working on our storm drains out here? I live on a corner that has 4 storm drains, and every time we get a 3 to 4 inch rain, I get 14 foot of debris up in my yard. So that's just with 3 or 4 inches of rain. And I've been trying to get the city to fix it since 2014, and they keep telling me it's doing it the way it was designed. But yet, on the next block, it drains out properly. It goes to a different canal, mine goes over here. Or is the city actually going to look at working on the infrastructure of the storm drains?
I can't speak on the infrastructure and what's planned for the street and how they do that. I do know that in times of storms that we'll ask all of them, stormwater, to go out and make sure that all of them are clear and clean up debris, especially if there's construction, that we want to make sure they do that silt and take it off.
They have scoped it, they've told me it's working the way it's supposed to work, but it's not.
Yes, ma'am. I wish I could answer that. I just can't answer
If you
that.
can take that back to the city.
I will take it back. Most definitely. Yes, ma'am.
Let's say a hurricane did come through.
Okay.
And then they say it's safe for you to go back and check your property.
Okay.
You're going to have some kind of special identification.
And I'm going to get to that.
Back home.
Yes, I'll get that. That's a good question, though, and that's a fair question, and we'll go through it in probably the next couple of slides. John already talked about this, the my slides are kind of cool. If you do know of anybody inside the Corpus Christi and they need a ride out of town and they say, well, my car can't make it, even if my car can't make it, or I just don't feel comfortable driving, all you really have to do is catch your nearest bus stop, and the city's going to make sure you get out of town. That's all you have to do. Just catch your nearest bus stop, bring your pets. RTA is not going to charge you. Bring your luggage, and we're going to make sure that you go to.
Planning and preparedness are key to any successful operation. In order to evacuate your residents or the city, and you have no reliable transportation, are you prepared? Have you made a plan? I'm Billy Delgado, Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Corpus Christi. In the event of an incoming hurricane, the City of Corpus Christi, RTA, and CCISD have devised a system to get you safely out of the path of the storm. They've established a procedure whereby in emergency situations, those with no reliable transportation can evacuate the city. Simply head for the nearest RTA bus stop and you will be taken free of charge to a hub for processing. Then by way of CCISD bus, you will be transported out of town and out of harm's way. To learn more, call the Office of Emergency Management, 826-1100, or visit cctexas.com and click Link CC.
And this will, they'll be taking them to the natatorium, and we'll register them, put them on a bus, and send them, take them to San Antonio, where they'll be sheltered. So the city does have a plan in case anybody doesn't have a way out of town, or you just want to park your car there and take a bus. It's available, and we just want to make sure that everybody gets out of town, especially those that can't. We're talking about reentry now. The question was coming back. Like we phase out, we phase in. And the purpose is, exactly, if we say, okay, everybody can come back, what's going to happen? Boom. What we have to do as a city to protect you is to make sure and go out and search and rescue people that just didn't want to leave, because we know that's going to happen, right? A big major storm, that's our first priority. Right after the storm, we're going to go out, we're going to clear the streets, we're going to make them safe for our first responders to go out and try to find people if we need to find people. We've got to go out and try to rescue people we need to rescue. That's our first priority, because during the storm, we're hunkering down like everybody else. As soon as the storm's over, I guarantee you, as soon as it's safe to get out there, you have a lot of people going out in the streets, making sure that people, if they need help, we're there to help them. Search and rescue, and we're going to be honest. If it's bad, and that's why we say when we evacuate, it's the hardest call that's going to have to be made by a county judge or a mayor or any elected official, is to call for an evacuation. Because it's getting people out of their homes, it's getting businesses out of their business, and every day is a trying day. So when we do call for evacuation, please heed the warning that we need for you to evacuate. Because when we call for an evacuation, it's because we fear for your life. We want you safe. Tier 2, Tier 1, we have our big companies that are going to do damage assessments for their facilities. They're allowed back at this time, and they have placards to come back. And then the Tier 2, now we've got to start bringing up the infrastructure. We've got to get our electricity going. We have to make sure the water's on. And during this time, and maybe we have what we call damage assessment teams that will go out to all the neighborhoods throughout the city. Each one, yes ma'am?
Do they turn the gas off, the natural gas?
I believe so, but I can get that question answered and I can get it to you. They will go out and assess neighborhoods and damages, and in that damage assessment team are police officers. So we will be, as soon as it's safe, we're going to go out and make sure that we're going to assess all damages. So once we do that, then we got to set up for a mass care, because again, people aren't going to leave. And then we bring back the small businesses and the residents. That's Tier 3. It's be patient, because if the storm leaves on Tuesday, you're not gonna come back on Wednesday. And I'm not gonna give a week or 2 weeks, because every storm is different. But we're doing our best. The city of Corpus Christi is out there doing their best to get it all up and ready. We know areas that if the island is blocked up, we're not letting anybody on the island. We're not letting anybody on the island. We have officers stationed in this area. And then you come back, and then by that time it's we've got the cleared enough for you to come back. And yes, when you do come back, make sure you have proof of residency, like you were talking about. If they don't have a proof of residency to get on the island, that they live here, they're not coming back in here. I mean, we're not going to allow them in. Any kind of utility bill, mortgage deed, property tax, or any government document. Reverse alert. How many of you are on reversealert.org? Great job. Thank you. Because we're going to be telling you, we're going to keep you informed during the time. If we're going to evacuate Zone A, you're going to get it on your alert. You're going to get the message from that service that there's going to be a big storm surge. Listen for information from your local emergency management. That's us. So if you're not on reverse alert, you want to make sure that you're on there. The only bad thing is I'm in it, man. Try to get Christina in.
Reverse Alert is a mass notification system to provide community with recent, accurate, and significant information from local officials in time of an emergency. The emergency management officials want to alert everyone in time of disaster, threats of public safety, fire emergencies, evacuations, and then provide updates of the incident. Reverse Alert is the vehicle to provide the information to the public. Our mission is to deliver the right information to the right people at the right time so they can make informed decisions. An informed public is our best protection in times of emergency. Reverse Alert allows us to deliver the information directly to you. You pick how the information is sent. You can have the information as a phone call, a text message, an email, and you control how and where to be notified. It takes only a few minutes to sign up at reversealert.org. Be empowered with information about the critical events in our community.
Reversealert.org. Go in there and get home tonight. Go ahead and register there. How are you going to keep informed with us? The media, our internet, cctexas.com. Click Ready CC. We've got all information about emergency zones and information that need to take you. Obviously, our reverse alert, telephone calls. KLUX radio, I don't know if you know this, 98.5, 89.5. Once we go into an emergency system, they suspend all programming. And so they will be keeping everybody updated on what we're doing, on any type of emergency information. So if you turn to 89.5 FM, you'll have that and you'll be hearing it live in real time because we're always in communication with that. And then our Ready CC Facebook and Twitter page, we're constantly updating that during times of storms. Those that do have reverse alert, you know those messages for weather is coming from our office. And if you go to Facebook, Ready CC, and Twitter, CC, and then obviously reversealert.org is very, very important to be up there. I want to thank you. I know, I think I want to leave this with you. The city of Corpus Christi, consider we're proactive and not reactive. Proactive meaning we go through all scenarios, we meet with all departments. And reactive means that, oh heck, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? How are we going to do this? We don't react, we respond because we have plans. Again, Mother Nature's going to get you, but we have to be ready to do it. We have a great mayor. We have good people out there working, first responders, public works. We work as a team. And the biggest thing is I think you know that we really care. We do. I'm born and raised Corpus Christi. Have a lot of roots here. We care for you. We care for the whole entire community, actually. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for allowing us to come tonight. I think it's very important. John and I do a lot of these, and we want you to ask us any questions because we'll answer the best we can. And if we don't know the answers, we'll get it for you. So again, I'm Billy Delgado. Call my number at 826-1100 anytime you want to ask a question. Except probably during an activation. I don't think you're gonna reach me, but my mother thought that she could just call me. But we do have a call center team that will be answering any questions during times of emergency. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
We'll try to get this information out and available for everybody also with all the links and all that kind of stuff. One thing that I want to just point out is I was young and crazy at one point, and I flew into Florida the day of Hurricane Andrew, Cat 5. The one thing they put up finally after the second day, we finally got this emergency phone that we could call out on. But I was very, just nervous and everything like that. So I didn't remember all the phone numbers. And remember, back then, well, we didn't have cell phones at that point, but now we have cell phones. Your cell phone could be dead. So one of the things to remember is write down all those phone numbers for your family members because you may not be able to get them off of your cell phone. So
That's a good
That's another question.
Yes.
When it comes down to the evacuation.
Yes, sir.
I've only been here for a year, so I don't know how bad the roads get. But when they come and say that they're going to evacuate the island, I would imagine it's going to just be a mess. Now, if I've got a camper that I want to get out ahead, I mean, how much? Is that even a choice, or just
that's a great question because yes, if you have a choice, you get out when you want to get out. Don't wait for the city to say evacuate, because when we call for evacuation, that's when most of the cities are going to start going.
So when you call for evacuation, it's going to be too late for any of that type of stuff. Right?
Not really, no.
Not for a camper, you think?
No. Because remember, we're going to call it plenty of time because we know we have to get the high-profile vehicle out of here.
Okay.
And again, we're going to be evacuating before any hard winds are even close to us. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, is anything done to keep fuel available when everybody's going to be trying to fill up their vehicle?
When here,
Yeah.
remember, this was a lesson learned in Rita. Mandatory evacuation was called for the city of Corpus Christi, which meant gas stations closed, banks closed, shopping centers closed, H-E-B, Walmart, all those closed. That's why we went to the phased evacuation. So remember, all those are still going to be open all the way down till you get out of town. So there will be opportunities, but we like to say is always keep your gas tank full, and that way we talk about that. But I know the state has talked about, because I think during Rita coming out of Houston, there was a lot of cars running out of gas. I think the state, and I'm pretty sure that they'll have these tankers, gas tanks. They're not going to fill your car up, but they'll give you some gas so you can take them. Yes, sir.
Is there any relationship with San Antonio? I mean, all these people are going to be going like up to San Antonio.
Great question.
I'm sure the hotels are going to fill up pretty quick.
Great question. Yes, constant. Because they're the city that's going to take in all our evacuees.
So they'll have an arena or some place to...
There will be a station there. They use the Air Force Base, but now it's not available anymore, but they have another area where all the buses or anybody, they'll have signs all the way through. Working with DPS, working in San Antonio, they're our sister city type of point-to-point. Yes, constantly. And not only that, the whole state of Texas is knowing what Corpus Christi is going to do for evacuation.
Also, I had heard that during a hurricane that a lot of RV parks open for people who are evacuating. Is that really true, or is that not?
RV parks here?
No, not here. I mean, in the state.
Oh, I really don't know, but I imagine that one thing I know about Texas, if there's a place that's in trouble, they're there to do whatever it takes to help citizens. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a local business option for low cost, NOAA weather radios locally?
NOAA radios, John,
Not a-
Walmart.
Not a reduced cost necessarily, but they're all about $25 or $30 at your normal store. So they're available just about anywhere. Pick one up for about $25 or $30.
Yes, sir.
One thing I wasn't clear on about the re-entry.
Yes, sir.
That phased re-entry,
Yes,
does
sir.
that mean that the people in the further outlying areas are permitted in first and us on the island would be the last ones in?
No.
Or how does that work?
No. When we say phase, we're not talking about locations of the city now. We're talking about who can.
It's not like the evacuation.
Exactly. It's not by zones. So when we say citizens, that's citizens. Everybody can come back. That's actually, I never thought about it like that, but I got to make a
Billy,
point.
you know, something that I was at said that they would be, the higher areas would be treated, they'd get the first area of getting the electricity back and then it would move up, but you're saying that's.
There's areas of the city and that we need to get up quick because of the infrastructure and there's hospitals and water plants. And so there's areas there, but say that the high area will get it before the low area, no, there's no plan like that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it correct that we would not be allowed back on the island until electricity is restored?
Yes.
Whenever we feel it's safe for you to come back, that's when we'll make the decision to come back.
Thanks to the POA for organizing this.
Great questions, thank you.
And just remember, the POA is not going to tell you to evacuate. They're going to tell you to evacuate. Listen to them.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Well done, guys. Nice job. Very nice job. John, thank you. Well done. Thank you.
Starry, starry night.